Welcome back, dear viewer. I hope all is well with you. Namaste. On today's video, I want to discuss something that I believe to be the most pivotal thing to the quality of life that you have, and that is regulating your nervous system. I believe regulation of the nervous system is the key factor in determining the quality of life you're going to have. And these insights I gleaned from my previous book club meeting, which was held last Saturday. So, from the book club, by the way, we were discussing The Diary of a CEO, his book. What's his name? Stephen Bartlett. Yes, Stephen Bartlett's book, The Diary of a CEO. That's why we were having a riveting conversation, and I gleaned some of the insights from not necessarily the book, but from what we were discussing. The first pillar was on self. And that is where we got to talking and sharing stories about each other's personal life, the struggles, how you overcome them, and through this sharing, the universe downloaded some nice tidbits which I'm sharing with you today. So for regulation of the nervous system, I found that from my experience and from the knowledge I've gained over the years, there are four key factors: mindfulness, self-education, letting go, or what I term as mini deaths, and using people, places, situations as your mirrors. So, my whole philosophy on this is to get you to a point where you are poised. Poise is equal to power. Poise is being comfortable enough in yourself to meet every situation where it is, like as it comes. In short, it's like saying you remain steady, you remain at peace regardless of what is going on around you. So the whole point of this is to regulate your nervous system, and my aim is to reach a level where I am poised enough that nothing outside of me disturbs or affects me. The only thing that can affect me is what is inside of me. And if I am able to regulate that in a manner that serves me, then I will get the most or the best quality of life I can from this existence that we have today. So, on mindfulness, to begin, the first one is mindfulness. With mindfulness, I term it as being acutely aware of your surroundings, your thoughts, your presence, your power, your choices, your intentions, your attention. Mindfulness is the practice of, how I define it is, mindfulness is a practice of being aware of yourself as you go through life. And this applies to every single facet of life. So again, mindfulness in your choosing, mindfulness in your intention, mindfulness towards what you're giving your attention to. Just like a computer, where we see that there's giggle, garbage in, garbage out. We function in quite a similar fashion, in the sense what we consume or what we give our attention to is what we end up replicating, reflecting. And this ties back to the last point, which was using people, places, and situations as your mirror. Because we live in a reality where it mirrors whatever we get what we are. Simply put, we get what we are. So with mindfulness, it requires you to constantly practice thinking the thoughts you want to think, not the thoughts that are just coming up in your mind. At the same time, this does not negate that thoughts will come even if you don't want them. Mindfulness in this aspect, dictates that you choose the thoughts you want to focus on. It's not vetting this will come into my head or not. You cannot control what comes into your head sometimes, because again, we are bombarded with so much things from social media, from people's problems, from your own problems, from life. We are bombarded with a lot. So ours is to just choose intentionally. And that I will leave as the best kind of description for mindfulness. Choosing intentionally. What you're thinking, what you're saying, the words you're using especially, the places you're putting yourself into, the interactions you have. This practice of mindfulness is actually tied to Stoicism, and you can use Stoic help in your journey, i.e., the Daily Stoic. It's a book with Stoic sayings that can help center you, especially in our chaotic world as the moment. So the second one is self-education. And by self-education, my focus here is on defeating or killing ignorance, because here ignorance is the enemy. I like what Alex Hormozi usually says when he talks about sadness and ignorance. He says most of what we term as sadness is just ignorance, because when you pinpoint exactly where your sadness comes from, you will find that mostly, not all the time, mostly, it's because you lack clarity on a way to move forward. You lack clarity on a way to solve i.e. problem, or just to begin. So self-education looks like me, first of all, being mindfully aware of what is up, what am I doing, what am I focusing on. Maybe it's a problem you're solving. If it's a problem you have and you're mindful of it, the second step now will be self-education, educating yourself on how it is you can go about solving that problem. And this might come in various forms, from one, reading books, from listening to videos like this, from articles online, from talking to people who you value their opinion, or who are knowledgeable in said problem. Again, self-education. It is a matter of prioritizing learning in your life. There's this saying where they say when you stop learning, you start dying. How I interpret the death part of this is not that you die physically, it's that you die metaphorically. And this looks like you keep on repeating the same patterns. You're locked in a loop, because the only constant in our universe is change. So whenever you're resisting change, you are resisting learning, you're resisting growing. And when you do that, you get caught up in a loop where you're comfortable in this bubble of reality of yours, and you're okay with that. And until you're not, that's when you'll start now being mindful. That's where mindfulness comes in now. When you start being mindful, you start being aware of the bubble of reality that you're living in, and now self-education comes in and pops that bubble. Nicely put. Then the next one is letting go. And by letting go, I quote it on the side with mini deaths. This is how I describe letting go. When you are aware of yourself, you are aware of your life, you're moving with intention, you're choosing with intention everything that comes up or surrounds your life, how it's made up. When you're moving with intention and you start with mindfulness, then you educate yourself on the things that you're lacking clarity on. There will come a point where your beliefs, values, interests, passions, what have you, everything that you have believed or have grown up knowing will be questioned. And now it is up to you to decide, will I stay with my beliefs that I had been taught, the beliefs I have held for so long that have served me well, but right now where I'm at, they can no longer serve me? Will I go on holding on? Will I move through life holding on to those things, which will translate again in keeping me in that loop? Or will I let go? And my whole point of saying, quote unquote, the many deaths is sometimes in life you reach levels where you literally have to let go of the person you have been for maybe the considerable big majority of your life, in order for you to ascend or in order for you to move forward to the next level. It is a challenge to set yourself apart, first of all, to be aware of what's going on, and knowing enough that for the next level you need to get to, or you want to ascend to, you need to let go of parts of yourself. You need to let go of the person you have been. You need to let go of some environments that you have put yourself in. Letting go, I associate with a sort of mourning where you have to honor the person you are by putting them to rest. And by doing so, you will be able to become who you want to be. So letting go is an integral part of this process of regulating your whole nervous system, because mindfulness helps you be aware of what's going on. It helps you be in touch with reality, not just in your bubble. It's like the starter pack of popping. It's like realizing, oh, there's a bubble of reality. Educating yourself, or just moving towards knowing more, or just growing, in short, now pops that bubble. Then here is where the action comes in letting go. In order for you to move, in order for you to get to where you want to be, changes must occur. You have to let go of who you have been for the longest time in order for you to make room for who you want to be. I did a podcast early this year where I titled it Creating Spaces. I'll leave the link in the description below. But the whole premise of that podcast was borderline, you have to create spaces for the things you want. And that requires you saying no to some things and saying yes to other things. This looks like you letting go of who you have been, the places you've been fighting for. It might even be the friends you have been fighting for, the relationships, the lifestyle, anything. If you do a deep dive in your life and you go mindfully curating every single facet of your life, you will find that a lot of what you are right now was built early on in your childhood, where you are assigned some set of programs, you are assigned some set of knowledge that has carried you up to this point. They built your beliefs, they built your values, and if you haven't spent enough time vetting all those beliefs and values and what have you, virtues and worldviews that you have or have gotten since you came out of the womb, it will be a shocker to begin with. It might shake up your world, like in a very big way. And some of you might find yourself resisting this change because, again, our minds interpret anything unfamiliar as dangerous. There's a subsection of the brain that is meant to protect you from danger. And how it interprets danger is anything that is not familiar. So you will tend to stick to what is familiar here and disregard the unfamiliar. But in truth, life has never been familiar. Life, the only thing you can bet on in life is uncertainty. So you resisting change is you resisting living. So I'll leave it off there in letting go. I'll speak on it in another video, but for this video, let's settle on it there. Then finally, using people, places, situations as your mirror. And this I associate with when you're growing and changing, when you're moving, when you're shifting from who you've been to who you want to be. There are a lot of let's call it, you have a lot of blind sides. Let's just say blind sides to you. Because up to where you are, you have cultivated a persona that suited who you are. But moving towards who you want to be, you need to first of all be aware of who you are, who you have been all this time. And one of the best ways to kind of like see yourself when you don't know what to look for is to use every person you interact with, everything that comes up in your reality, every situation that puts you with discourse with yourself. For example, using every person, relationship, situation, and being mindful of how these things are affecting you. For example, this particular thing when someone does this particular thing, it makes me happy. When they do this particular thing, it makes me sad. Ask yourself again now, coming back to the mindfulness, because mindfulness plays a part in all of this. Why does this make me happy? Why does this make me sad? Why is it when someone questions my opinion, I get defensive? Why does that bring up anger in me? Maybe you might find you have been invalidated since you were a child, or you have been in a position where your beliefs are what protected you from the world outside, and that's what you latched onto. And now you're in a position where someone is questioning those beliefs, or you might be the one questioning those beliefs, and you are being confrontational. Because I usually find it funny, especially when someone tries to impose their beliefs on you, in the sense, if you were really strong in your faith, if you were really strong and secure in your faith, then you wouldn't need to convince me. You wouldn't feel threatened by my difference in opinion. So you see, using every single situation, every single act that you're doing, everything that, let's say for example, everything that you do or someone does and it pisses you off, use that as a mirror. Use that as your mirror. Because everything that pisses you off in other people, situations, or relationships, those are the things you most need to work on. And I'm talking from experience, because even in my content creation, I have found that the content I am creating is specifically and very necessary and important to me. Like, to put it plainly, what I put out is what I most need to practice. So even in this video, this is exactly what I need to practice as myself. And the beauty about sharing something or teaching it, is you get nuanced perspective from other people, and at the same time, you get to really hear yourself. In a way, you are doing the work. It is part of the work. I would encourage everyone to, even if you're not at a level where you want to show millions of people, take up some form of content creation, or just document your life in one way or another. It will work wonders for you. You'll tell me. So that now aside, collectively now, these things will bring you to a point where your nervous system regulation will be more streamlined. It will be less this, it will be more this. And I advise, or I don't advise, I encourage you to really practice kindness during this whole process. Give yourself grace, because as I said, you have been one way for very long. You changing will require you to look a different way. So give yourself some kindness, give yourself some grace. Again, I will go through them. The first one was mindfulness, being aware of every single thing that you're doing and moving with intention and choice, choosing intentionally. The second one was self-education. Here, ignorance was the enemy. Remember, most times your sadness is linked to ignorance. So seek to pop that bubble of reality that you're in. Seek to look at different perspectives, POVs, and you'll see how your world will shift and change beautifully. Then the third one was letting go, or mini deaths. And here, the premise is what you focus on or what you fight for is what you get to keep. You fight for the comfort you've had. You fight for the same relationships that are bringing you distress. You fight for that role that you have been playing that you no longer feel is serving you. That is exactly what you're going to keep. And this is tied to what you're thinking about most of the time. Our mind is a subset of the universe, and its response to every single thing we give it, we think, is yes. So you keep on thinking about things that you don't want, The mind is yes. The mind says yes. Let us show you more of exactly what you're thinking about. So remember, in letting go or mini deaths, what you fight for, you get to keep. Then the last one was using people, places, situations, everything in your life as a mirror. When things piss you off, note them down. That is exactly what you kind of like dislike in yourself or a part of yourself. That is something you need to work on, because life in itself is a journey. And in this journey, you're meant to meet different people, interact in different ways, grow at different rates. And remember, growth is not linear. So when you try to impose your personal will on someone, that is something that should concern you, because it tells you one thing, one sure thing, is that you're not secure. You're not secure in yourself at all. And there's some things, deep-rooted things, beliefs, values, insecurities, traumas, experiences that you need to work through. So in all this, I hope to instill some form of poise in you, because when you are deeply aware of who you are, and this again goes back to mindfulness, self-educating yourself, letting go of the things that are not serving you, and using people, places, and situations as your mirror, you will be powerful in a sense. You will be like a deep-rooted tree in a storm. You learning how to regulate your nervous system is like planting deep roots into the ground, where regardless of the shiftings of the weather, you will remain firm. So with that said, there are levels to this knowledge, and there are levels to learning or to practicing this knowledge. One is called unconscious incompetence. The second level is called conscious incompetence. The third is called conscious competence. And the fourth is unconscious competence. I'll just mention them briefly, but in the next video, I'll go through them properly. So unconscious incompetence is when you don't know what you don't know. You're just blissfully going through life, blissfully unaware going through life. So that's the point where you don't know what you don't know. Then conscience and competence is where you know that you don't know A, B, C, and D. This is like the practice of self-education intermingled with letting go, because now you're deeply aware of, I don't know this. You're fighting your ignorance. And conscience competence, now the third level, is the state where I know what I don't know, and I know what I don't know, and I've made effort to learn now. Now you're conscious, you're competent. Now you know, you get. But yet conscious competence is a place where you have to keep on reminding yourself. It's conscious competence. And then the last level is unconscious competence. And now this is a level where you know, and you don't have to keep reminding yourself to remember. It's something that is now in you. Again, it is the embodiment of poise. You are very secure and very okay. You're very secure in yourself. You realize your power, you acknowledge it, and you move through life as someone who actively knows themselves, actively accepts themselves, actively makes room and spaces for other people to be themselves. It's a different form of allowance, and it's a high level of allowance and a high level of acceptance. So I'll leave that off for today, and I hope this message blesses you as much as it has blessed me. And that is all for today. Namaste. May the rest of your day, morning, evening, afternoon, be as fruitful as you wish it to. And don't forget to subscribe. Click that like button. It helps a lot. And I would love to hear some of your comments in the comment section. See you soon.